WA1EXA, the Marco Medical Net will start in 15 minutes.
WA1EXA, this is K3FZT. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, good morning. I hope things are better in Philadelphia than they are here. It's kind of a rainy, misty, cold day, and maybe it'll get better out here. I hope you're doing well and that you had a good week.
Thanks for your good wishes, Mark. We had the rainy, cold earlier this week. Yesterday was actually quite chilly. Today it's only getting up to 73, but that'll be just fine. My bigger problem is I'm off HF because my long wire, my terminated and fed inverted V, won't load. And I'm getting some help this afternoon, and we'll go up and take a look at it. I suspect water is the culprit. The only question is where the antenna and the water are interacting. Always something to do in ham radio. Back to you.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what kind of makes it, I guess, fun. No 2 days are alike, and you never can depend that it's not going to be broken when you go try it. And then you got to fix it, and you got to figure out how to fix it. First, you got to figure out what's wrong. Yes, I would imagine it's water, or you got a short someplace. Maybe you had a squirrel nibbling on a coax cable or something like that. You never know. I've had that happen. Oh well. Okay, so we'll put you down as being here, and we'll hopefully be starting in about 10 minutes or so, about 20 minutes or so. It's for 10:48 now, and hopefully we'll have enough people here today. I know there's a video conference going on at the same time.
Okay. Just hanging out on Zoom to see if anyone wants some support for the digital modes. Not much happening. Okay. But I will be checking in at noon. K3 have said T clear.
Whiskey Alpha 1 EXA. This is PY2 BBQ. Can you hear me, Mark?
Good morning, Hilton. I hear you fine. WA1EXA here. A little bit low on the audio, but not really bad.
Okay. Thanks for picking me up. I'm transmitting for the local repeat here and started the transmission, the broadcasting through the YouTube. And currently today I won't be able to join in. Today it's Valentine's Day here in Brazil. It's a different date from the United States. It's exactly today. And I'm taking the crystal to lunch in a restaurant. It's almost midday here, so I apologize, but I'll leave it running in the YouTube. It will be automatically ending in about 1.5 hours. So 73s, everybody. Have a great weekend from PY2 BBQ Hilton, São Paulo.
Okay, BBY, BBQ, WA1EXA. Well, I understand wholly. You better go out, and you got a whole year, so you got to make things happy, and Valentine's Day is a big deal, I guess. So have a good lunch, and I'm glad things are opened up enough so that you're able to kind of go out and you're not bound in the house. So enjoy. And thank you for turning on the YouTube. I see. I did hear it start. W1EXA.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Yeah, things are getting better here in Brazil, and the number of new cases of COVID-19 and also the hospital occupation. So it's allowed to open again the restaurants and of course with health security measurements that we were able to go back to almost normal life. Okay, 73, so QRT for now. WA1EXA PY2BBQ. Bye bye.
Hey, Hilton. Give our greetings to your significant other person there, and enjoy your lunch. WA1EXA listening for the start of the Mark Arnett. WA1EXA. Mark Arnett will start in 5 minutes. name is Mark. I'm on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I'll be your net control today for the Marco Digital Voice Net. Just a little housekeeping before we start. Please make sure you leave space between transmissions so that we have the ability to connect all the different stations. The QuadNet receives from many different modalities and takes time sometimes to line everything up. So give it a break and make sure we leave enough space. Other than that, I'm filling in for Jay today. He's at a Zoom meeting. He may stop by. So we'll be ready for check-ins now. So those who are ready to check into the net, go ahead.
Victor Echo 7 Bravo Sierra Papa from Victoria, Canada.
N4 TSC, Mouth of the Rat, Florida.
Steve, K3FZT, Philadelphia.
Okay, I do have a few here. Steve, who checked in earlier, K3 SZD, N4 TFC, and VE, and I didn't get the number, BSP in Canada. Anyone else?
This is N5 RTF Chip in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Okay, we got Tipper in New Orleans, N5 RTF, and we have K4 YBS. So, is there anyone else before we start? Okay, not hearing anybody right now. We'll get started and see if more people join us. So anyway, as far as things are going here in Massachusetts, we have the same, I imagine, as most places in the States anyway. Our COVID rate is dropping as we talk. Things are all opened up. The only thing I have to report is in today's paper, we have a front page article about a lobster diver, that was actually swallowed by a whale and then spit out because this whale likes baleen, doesn't like people. And he is alive and well at Cape Cod Hospital, and this picture is here. So I thought that was a little bit something unusual for medical history. So with that, we'll go to our first person that's called in. That would be Phil, K3SZD in Philadelphia. Go ahead, Phil. I'm sorry, Steve.
It's all good. Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. Effective yesterday, the city of Philadelphia stopped requiring mask wearing inside stores and venues and such. Nonetheless, today in my travels, I did visit two commercial businesses, and in both of them, staff were wearing masks, and a variable number of customers, including me, also wore masks. I'm fully vaccinated, but the interventions to reduce risk do work in different ways and thus provide some additive benefit. Beyond that, I finally got the DC power on my ham station working okay, and then my HF antenna has been laid low, not literally, just figuratively, by, I suspect, all the rain we've had in recent days. In any case, it wouldn't load Thursday night, and very frustrating. I'm going to get some help and see what I can do about it this afternoon. So that's the news from Philadelphia. Thanks for taking the net today, Mark, and providing us this opportunity. And just a reminder, if anyone would like to join the Zoom at noon, I will be there. It will be open, and I'm happy to support digital voice operation for MarcoNet and do the best I can to respond to your questions. This is K3FZT, back to net control.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Yes, I did want to mention the Zoom meeting that's at noon. I forgot about that. And I think you'll be doing okay. I'm sure as you said, there's probably water in the line someplace. I would imagine one of the connectors might be leaking. Over to K4YBS. Go ahead. Well, K4YBS, I guess, stepped out for a moment. To VE7BSP, how are things in Victoria?
VE7BSP, Richard here in Victoria. We have a bit of a cloudy, overcast day, but the sun is certainly trying to peek through here. In terms of COVID, the whole province here is now north of 70% first vaccination. And over this weekend, we should cross the 10% threshold for second vaccination province-wide. And our 12-plus population is now at about 70% as well of that population in the province has their first dose. So things are really moving on. Our incidence rate is down 80% in the last couple months for active infections. Back to net control.
Well, thank you, Richard. I'm wondering what is going on with the children's vaccinations. I know in the States we've got it down to people at starting, I think, at 12, and they're looking to change that to even lower. What are they doing up in Canada?
Yeah, we're nationwide now at 12 years and older, and there's lots of work. We're watching the international studies coming out to see what happens between 6 and 12, and then arguably 2 to 6. But at the moment, although that's looking optimistic, we haven't done anything more yet than just watch the studies as they're coming out. But I suspect before too much longer, we will hear support for 6 to 12.
Yeah, it sounds about what's going on here too. And I assume that as soon as that happens, you'll see the inoculation rate go up. Are you experiencing the issues about mandating vaccination before going back to school? I know we do that, and most of the colleges are doing that, but there's a big political question regarding high schools and elementary schools and middle schools. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't heard much in terms of a mandatory requirement, although it wouldn't surprise me as we get further into the summer. I do know nationwide school openings full on are expected this fall, although some universities are already saying they're going to run their fall semesters in a remote setting already. So, for example, various programs at the University of Toronto in Ontario have said that their fall semester will remain virtual and they'll consider the winter semester as on site. So some schools are starting to make declarations that way, but from a government standpoint or mandatory requirement for vaccinations, I'm not hearing much of that yet.
Yeah, I guess it's about the same here. Where they're looking at whether they should. I know some of the employers are making it mandatory to go back to work in their facilities, where the person can remain home. But there's not as much of a hassle with that so far, anyway. Well, thank you for the information. I think we'll go now to Chip down in New Orleans. Chip, N5RTF. How's things down south? Back to you.
Good morning to the group. COVID is almost a thing of the past down here. We still have cases, but everything's opened back up again. You know, masks are required only in schools and healthcare facilities. So the French Quarter has just been popping with activity. Got a lot of tourists coming back, and all of our festivals that normally occur in the springtime have been moved to the fall. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Wait one. I am streaming and recording the net. I usually do that on Blue DV while I use my hotspot for communication. But I set it up this morning on D-Star, and I was only getting a few of the members. Some people were not coming through at all on D-Star, so this may be a problem with QuadNet this morning. I switched Blue DV to DMR, and I'm recording everybody at this point, so it is streaming. Um, Aside from that, just a brief thing to Steve about antennas. We get the third highest rainfall in the United States in New Orleans, and I went several years ago to an ICOM AH4 to tune my long wire antenna, and it has never failed on me, even in hurricanes. So it's something to think about. N5RTF clear.
Yeah, I know we've got a similar problem on the Cape with saltwater intrusion. You put anything outside that's not stainless steel or aluminum, and it rusts. So I have been using white petrolatum or Vaseline for those that don't want the generic name. And it's a little bit messy, and it does cause a lot of dirt to stick to it. But I have found it to be a very inexpensive and cheap way of coating all my connections, and especially the bolts that are around the masts. And I've had masts I've antennas up for years, and I'm able to take the bolts off, and it doesn't rust up and freeze up on me, which it would do within 3 months up here because of the salt water. So that I'll throw that in for for a little bit of information. And by the way, the Latin name, I think, is albumin petrolatum, white, white oil. Anyway, so much for the history lesson. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? Calling again for any more stations. Go ahead.
This is N4TSE, Jerry, in Florida. You missed me.
Okay, Jerry, I'm sorry I did. N4TSE. Go ahead.
Okay, very good, Mark. Let me see. I've got a couple of comments to make on the technical side and also on the nominal reason for our meeting, and I'll get to those in a minute. I should remark that when I heard Hilton earlier, he kept causing my DMR 380 to keep cycling. It kept going on and off, on and off, on and off, and I think there might be some issue with the QuadNet and his association with it, because I hear everybody else fine. The radio works okay when he's not communicating. Stand by one. And as far as the connections, I have a couple of long wires. I've got an actual 80-meter long wire and a 160-meter long wire, and they work reasonably well, except that I have an issue with thunderstorms almost on a daily basis for about 6 months of the year, and then periodically the rest of the year. And so what I do is I disconnect my my connection from the long wire to my antenna tuner. And about a few weeks ago, I discovered that I thought that the bands had all closed down. And in doing some inspection, I discovered that, in fact, what happened was the constant physical connection and deconnection of the antenna was causing a break-in. The thing was shorting out. So I think we finally got that resolved. Stand by one. So as far as today is concerned, the temperature is sunny and it's 91 degrees here in otherwise known as Boca Raton, but it's really Mouth of the Rat. And I think as far as the subject of discussion about COVID, we still have a question of how much immunity is actually delivered to those who have recovered from COVID, and as well as those who have received a double dose of COVID. Stand by one. So that we have evidence that there are some questions that still need to be answered as to the quality of the immunity that's delivered, the length of time, etc., because we have reports that those people who were vetted on a cruise ship all had double dose vaccination, and all on board were considered clear, and yet many of those on board have now tested positive for COVID. Although they may not be symptomatic, I don't have the reports there. But there's still a lot we have to learn. Stand by one. So it looked to me when Harry and I were talking about this about a year ago, I had projected that we would be looking at late summer before we would be at a point where we could have confidence that we were putting COVID in the rearview mirror, and I still think we're in a gray zone. We still have more to learn, and the jury is still out. So nothing is really definitive, but I think it's at least we're headed in the right direction at the moment in the U.S. The rest of the world, that's another issue. And as I had projected about a year ago, I thought it would be about 2 years plus before we got the whole world covered. So those are some of the comments I have this morning. Let me turn it back to you, Mark. WA1EXA and 4TSE, not for terribly smart children.
Okay, Jerry, not for terribly smart children. N4TSE. Yeah, that information is still out there, or those questions are still out there. And also the question of, are we going to need a booster shot? at some point in time, and who needs it and when to get it. There still appears to be issues regarding the amount of immunity, and that you still have those long haulers that they can't figure out why. Some people never really get over some of the symptoms or develop different symptoms. So you're right. We're not finished with COVID by any means of the imagination, but we are now at the point where as we say, we can start getting a little more closer and closer to normal life, whatever that means, um, and don't need to take the same steps that we were taking before. But I have a feeling that COVID isn't going away, and and what I can tell, I think there's going to be a good chance that that's going to be added to our yearly flu vaccine. I'm not positive, and I've tried to look into the chemistry of it, if it's compatible with the other vaccines, physically compatible. So so you don't they can't put them together and you get a precipitate coming out. I haven't seen anything regarding the chemical stability of mixing those vaccines. I think they're both water-based, but I'm not positive. I believe they are, though. So it should be a possibility, but we'll probably going to be looking at that. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to take time, and you're being wait one. I have a feeling that we're going to be taking longer than 2 years as the vaccine goes around the world. I know that there's some question on vaccines that are produced in China, in Russia, and I don't know if that really has been stabilized yet. So let's take a break and see. Is there anyone else who'd like to join the Marco Digital Net? Go ahead.
November 3, India Mike.
Okay, November 3, India Mike. Go ahead. November 3, India Mike. It's WA1EXA. Are you copying? I think we're having the same problems as we did last week. I think was it Jerry? Yeah. That mentioned that he was having problems with DMR. I have been able to hear most people, maybe not all, but I've been hearing most people through DMR. So let's go back up to the top of the list here and see if there's any more comments. Steve, K3TZ, I'm sorry, it's FZT, WA when you say.
WA1EXA and the group, this is K3FZT. First off, I'd like to agree with Jerry that the answers aren't in, but I would like to bifurcate the issue between public health and individual patients. I am sure we will learn more, but it is my opinion that the public health answers on the vaccine are clearly in, and we clearly see substantial suppression of serious illness and death by vaccination. Whether carriage of active virons is suppressed in individuals is a question yet to be answered, and a fraction of the population the vaccines accomplish that for is yet to be answered. For individuals, well, we know throughout medicine there's a wide variability of response to any medication. Wave one. And there will be more to learn about the response of individuals. Moderna, and this is for you, Mark, Moderna is actively working on combined coronavirus and influenza vaccines, and expects to be trialing one this fall, or at least that's what their press releases say. Wave one. Jerry, on the grounding and disconnecting your antenna, I guess I take a different view. Commercial radio and TV stations are struck by lightning many times a year, particularly in your neck of the woods. Yet they continue operating and maintain all antenna connections. The way they accomplish this is with what's called a peripheral ground system, in which everything is connected to a well-established ground system that, quite frankly, even for a modest 2,500 square foot house, could run into thousands of dollars to do it properly. Wave one. However, leaving your antenna connected with a proper ground at the entry point to your house does allow for the static otherwise created by falling rain and blowing wind on the antenna to be drained to ground. And disconnecting it prevents that, and unless your air gap is measured in yards, will not prevent a direct lightning strike from frying your equipment. So, in fact, while I do cease operation during thunderstorms, I leave everything connected because I know I have a good semi-peripheral ground. It's worth it to spend the $15 on the ARRL Grounding and Bonding Handbook. One man's opinion. This is K3FZT, back to WA1EXA and the net. Thank you.
Okay, W4FZT and W3FZT, WA1EXA. Yeah, one thing you might comment on. What if you disconnect your antenna and connect it directly to a ground system? In other words, disconnect it from the radio and then connect it to a ground system. Does that make any difference on the draining off of the static electricity and the ability to kind of make your antenna not a quick ground to for an attraction for a lightning? Go ahead.
Well, Mark, I don't really have an informed opinion on that. I think a lot depends on your ground system. Let me briefly describe what I have. On the outside wall of my house, I have a box that's basically 2 feet by 2 feet and sealable with entry points for antenna leads, coax, or whatever through the bottom of the box. The back plane of the box is a solid piece of copper, and screwed to it are lightning arresters. And every antenna that comes in the house goes through its own lightning arrestor. And then a patch cable, coaxial cable of some sort, goes from the other side of the lightning arrestor to the radio. That panel of copper is then, I have a 2-inch wide copper strap screwed to that panel. And that 2-inch copper strap goes to an 8-foot copper plated ground rod that's in the ground about 3 feet past the wall of the house. That ground rod and copper strap, the copper strap continues, and every 16 feet there is another 8-foot ground rod hammered in the ground. Oh, and by the way, the 2-inch wide copper strap is buried along with the ground rod. And that goes all around a portion of the house, a total of about 50 feet, to meet the ground rod that my electricians installed when running a new service to the house. I'm putting up well, that's enough for now. I could go on at length. K3FZT.
Okay, Steve, that's very interesting. That's pretty much what our club's and repeater has for a grounding system. Of course, the repeater is on top of a fire tower, which is on top of a hill on the Cape here. But that's basically what we have for that. And we have never had any problems. And of course, we don't disconnect anything when the repeater is working. We just leave it alone, and not had any problems. I in my house do something similar, but not quite as elaborate as what you have. But I have seen that. Well, thank you for that information. Let's see, Chip and 5RTF. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a station almost identical to what was just described. Really good grounding, surge protectors in the line, panel on entry, and I still lost the front end of a Kenwood to a nearby lightning strike. I was experimenting with it later just to see what kind of voltages were occurring on. This is a large loop antenna. And before it plugged into the arrestor panel, it would light a neon light between the center pin and the ground on the incoming coax from lightning 20 miles away. Wait one. In my current location, I'm running almost a satellite operation. I'm up 40 feet in the air, 4th floor condo, and I'm running a long wire which slopes down from the feed point, which is 6 feet from my radio. So the coax length is negligible. The AH4 works very, very well. And I'm forced to have this arrangement because I'm living in a historical area which does not appreciate modern technology. Although, looking back through ARRL publications, the gaslight era and wire antennas pretty much coincided if I ever had to argue it. N5RTF out.
Very good, Steve. I know it is. I live in a condominium, so I have HOA issues very similar to that, but I had a standalone house in the condominium. Um, and I was going to say something and now I forgot. Oh, yeah, well, it's true. We all know this, that no matter what you do, no matter how well and you design your grounding system, it doesn't protect you 100% from anything happening to it. It still can be a problem. Break one.
Yes, Mark, it's Richard here.
Go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry. Richard, B7BSP, you have anything to add before we move along? I guess he doesn't or didn't hear me. I'm not sure. Let's see. Jerry and 4TSC, anything to add?
Yeah, W1EXA and 4TSC returning. Yeah, with regard to grounding for the risk of lightning strikes, I use a belt and suspenders approach to defending against lightning strikes. Over the 35 years that I've lived here at my home, I suspect that some of the things I've done have helped to some degree. Wait, one. Nonetheless, I have noted two major strikes to my neighbor, and they've lost limbs and, in fact, lost half a tree. And I suspect it's because it hit my neighbor and not me because of the system that I have. I have a home with an added swimming pool with rebar underneath the deck, and the rebar is connected to two lightning or two ground rods, which are used as kind of a bleed off of buildup of electric. Plus, I have three other ground rods, one for a satellite dish and two others. And so everything is interconnected and everything is bled off the ground. So that may, in fact, help bleed off some of the slow buildup of static electricity and may protect me to that, to in that way. Stand by one. Nonetheless, because of the hits that my neighbors taken, and I have a fairly large property relative to the community that we live in. I'm on 2 acres, and my neighbors have approximately the same amount of property. But the fact that I've noted hits to my neighbor and not to me, I suspect it's because they don't bleed off their static electricity and I do. But I don't want to take a hit, and it's too much of a hassle to try to replace things when you get hit, and that's the reason why I physically disconnect every time that there's a threat of a lightning strike. Stand by one. And with regard to the vaccines that Steve was talking about, I'm hopeful that the mRNA will have better predictability than the traditional killed virus or attenuated virus that we've been using. They seem to be more problematic in terms of getting to a level acceptability and safety, the mRNA looks like it's probably going to have a better track record, but you can't really know for sure. And it will probably be possible to mix mRNA vaccines. I don't know whether they will mix with the killed virus and the attenuated virus the vaccines, but as far as whether we're going to need boosters or not, that's obviously an open question, and we'll just have to watch and wait. With that, let me turn it back to Mark up there in Massachusetts. WA1EXA and 4 TSE.
Okay, WA1EXA here. I mean, the bottom line is we're going to have to wait and see actually how long all this immunity actually does stick around, and how much of it sticks around over time. But I'm hoping that if we do have to get a booster, that they can combine it with the other vaccines. It would be just convenient. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather get both once than 2 or 3 times. N3IM. I believe you called in, but I haven't heard you. I didn't hear you. Want to try one more time? Are you there? Oh well. Okay. One last time. Anybody would like to check in or have anything else to say? This is WA1EXA.
WW6AA checking in.
WA6, go ahead, WA1EXA.
Okay, this is WW6AA, Maryland, Long Beach, and I apologize for being late, but as you all know, the West Coast is on a different time zone than the rest of the world, and as most of you who've listened to me know, I'm ultra-liberal, and I grew up with a lifestyle that said we should only have a 4-day work week. And so my work week was always Monday through Thursday, and the rest of the time I just wake up whenever the birds start chirping. Anyway, Long Beach, California is back to complete normal at this moment in time. And to give you an example of how my day is, we've been invited to a birthday party on somebody's mega yacht, which is over 50 feet. And the notice said, we want to tell you that the captain and some member of the crew have not been vaccinated. Back to you. WW6AA is listening.
Okay, Meryl, we got that this time. Sorry for waking you up. Yeah, I know, you're 3 hours behind us here, so it is... and I agree with you as far as ever since I've been retired, my day is about the same as yours when you're not working. And I don't have any problem with that. Okay, well, yes, it's to be a while before we know for sure, but things are opening up, and people are starting to enjoy their life a little bit more than they were before. I myself, wait one. I myself, last week for my birthday, my family took me out to a German restaurant in West Hartford, Connecticut, and we had a nice time. But everything is pretty much open. There's a number of things that seems to have developed during this COVID time that I think is going to continue. And one of them, I think, is, at least in this part of the country, outdoor dining in the good weather. Wait one. Most of the towns around have closed off half their streets and allow the restaurants to move out into the sidewalks or into the street itself, and it seems to be becoming very popular. So I think that's going to probably continue after all this is settled down and become one of the norms that we have. Of course, we have to pick that all up come around October because we have to plow the streets and got to put snow someplace. And I'm sure it's the same way in all the other northern towns. So, not hearing any. One more call. For anybody. Go ahead.
WJ8B.
WJ8B. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, everybody. I got in late because I got a phone call from my younger son in California and ran over, so I didn't see my two grandkids. But not too much going on here in Ohio. The numbers on COVID are improving. I think one of the controversies, I didn't get to hear the rest of that, so if I duplicate anything, one of the controversies interesting on the new Alzheimer's drug. They have proved it because it does reduce plaque, but they don't have any outcomes data showing that it works. So that's interesting. So apparently 3 of the people on the board actually resigned because of that. So that's what I heard health-wise. So everybody have a good weekend, and hopefully I will be on time next week from WJP.
WJB. Very good. Yeah, no, you're on time. I haven't closed it down yet, so you're on time. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining the net. Gives everybody enough time to get onto the Zoom call, and hope you enjoy the week. And hopefully it's going to be nice and sunny for every place, and rain only at night. Rain be coming down at night where you are. This is WA1EXA. We'll be closing the net at this time, and thank the owners and managers of QuadNet for the ability to do this. And we'll be here next week. So this is WA1EXA. We'll be clear.
K3FZT, please feel free to join me on the Zoom call, which is still up. If you'd like to talk about any technical issues you're having with Digital Voice and the Marco Digital Voice Net, or anything else. Thank you. K3FZT clear.
And 3IM, I gotcha. I called a couple of times, but you didn't come back, so I didn't know if we just had lost you or not. But I do have it down. Thank you. This is WA1EXA is clear.
WA1EXA, this is N3IM. Yeah, I tried to get in earlier, but I lost connection, so finally was able to get it connected for the last 15, 20 minutes. So we'll see you next week. WA1EXA and 3IM. It's clear.
N4TSC, this is K3FZT.
Yes, Steve. K3FZT and 4TSC. Go ahead.
I envy you. What you're describing is called an UFER ground, UFER. It's used in major building construction all over the world, and it's really a very effective means of grounding. And the fact that you bonded all your various grounds together is another bit of evidence of really competent planning and implementation, at least by my reading of both the ARRL manual and the Motorola manual on the construction of commercial radio facilities. So good on you. Very enviable setup. K3FZT.
K3FZT and 4TSC. Well, teleologically it should work, but as you know, you can't prove a negative, you can only prove a positive, and so I do the best I can to try to avoid the effects of getting hit, but I can't protect myself against my neighbors, and the fact that my neighbor had a couple of trees knocked out over the years, and so far, knock on wood, I've been safe. That's helpful. Nonetheless, we learn more from our mistakes than from the things we do right, and one of the things I had done was I had put up a tree, stand by one. I had put up a tree at the corner of my pool enclosure, and I had done that for the sake of privacy, not considering that a hurricane would come through and the tree would grow and would catch the wind and would be sufficiently large to fall over and knock over my pool enclosure. And so I lost my pool enclosure. And I lost it and then couldn't replace it because it was going to take 2.5 to 3 years to get the aluminum because they weren't manufacturing any aluminum in the U.S. So we just went ahead and put in a fence to protect against children finding curiosity and coming into the pool. But even that fence is also grounded. So everything around here is grounded. Nonetheless, I don't want to test out the theory that the grounding will protect me. That's the reason why I disconnect everything whenever there's a storm or a threat of a storm. And so far, knock on wood, we've been okay with that, but the physical effect of disconnecting and connecting me is what caused me an issue. But I do appreciate the fact that you found the ARRL had given a stamp of approval of this approach. K3FZT and 4TSC.
Yeah, it's you know, the weather, the environment will always overcome human beings' best efforts. But you know, from everything you've described, like I said, I'm admiring of the work you've done. Okay, I'm going to hang out on Zoom in case folks want to chat until 12:30, and then I'll get some lunch. K3FZT clear.
Okay, very good, Steve. I still got an eye on you. I still see the back of your head. K3FZT and 4TSC.